Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of r/nosleep radio. It is my utmost pleasure to introduce you to the June edition of this series. Today I have two very special stories for you that were some of the original stories that I intended to use in this series. And unfortunately I have recorded the audio for this in its entirety and failed to edit it properly and must record it again. I do deeply apologize for such an infraction, and hope that you may forgive me. On a better note, I have a better microphone now, so perhaps my voice will sound much more relaxing to those of you who listen. Now, if I may click over to Reddit for you. Our first story is, I didn't add my newest friend on Snapchat, and I need help. Submitted 3 months ago today, June the 6th, by an average Devon. Hey everyone. I'm sure you all heard of Snapchat. For those who haven't, it's an app that lets you share short picture and video messages with other people. Normally, you have to add someone in order to receive messages from them, but you can set it up so that you can get messages from anyone. I have mine set to friend only, though. Recently, however, I noticed that I had a new friend on my list. Their name was Burgess. I didn't know anyone by this name, and I definitely would have remembered adding someone with a name like that. They didn't have a Bitmoji, so that didn't give me any hints of what this person might look like either. I opened up their profile, and their Snap score was sitting at 5, which meant this was a fresh account. I also noticed there was no option to remove the friend or block them like there should have been. I was able to see he was a Capricorn, if that means anything. After closing his profile, I noticed there was an image message waiting to be opened from him. I wasn't sure if I should open it or not, but in the end, curiosity won out. I tapped the image. I almost dropped my phone upon seeing the image. It was me, but it wasn't just me. It was my corpse. The image only lasted a brief second before closing itself, but I knew what I saw. It was an image of me, dead and decomposing. My eyes had been milky white, and there were insects all over me, feasting on my pale flesh. I had to hold myself back from throwing up. How was this possible? Was this some sort of filter? I had never seen that image of me, and it looked far too real. The image had only been on screen for a single second, but that was 1 second too many. I had braced myself as I got ready to click the replay button, which you are allowed to do once per day on Snapchat. My plan was to screenshot the image so I could at least try to get a better understanding of what was going on. I took a deep breath and hit the replay button, except the image wasn't the same. It wasn't a picture of my corpse anymore, and it didn't go away after a second. The new image was me, but I was alive this time. In fact, it looked like the image had just been taken from my phone. It was me looking disgusted at something, wearing the same clothing I was in now. There was text at the bottom, but it simply said 317. That was it. I did screenshot the image, even though I wasn't the one I thought. Had I imagined seeing the first one? Even so, how had this person sent me an image of myself? Had they hacked my camera? This seemed like the most plausible excuse. Someone had hacked my Snapchat and was pulling some sort of elaborate prank. Even though that theory made the most sense, it still didn't all add up. So what did the message mean? 317. Is it March? So I suppose it could be referring to March 17th, or perhaps it's a reference to the 317th day of the year, or maybe something to do with 3:17 a.m. or p.m. Maybe it's none of those and it's some other cryptic message. I really don't know. I slid over the mystery person's Snapchat and typed, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly, but it didn't answer my question. It simply said, "Sorry." That was it. I tried messaging the person several times after that, but they never responded. I once again attempted to look for a way to remove the person from my friends list, but once again, there were no options for this, so instead, I emailed Snapchat customer support. Instead, hoping they could help with this issue. I really didn't want to make a new Snapchat, but if my account was compromised, it may be necessary. After that, I didn't receive any messages from Burgess. I was telling my friend about the odd experience and asking him if anything weird like that had ever happened to him, and of course he said no. He did offer up a suggestion, though. He asked for the name of the account, and I gave it to him. The account added him back, but it didn't message him instantly like it did with me. He sent a snap of himself flipping off the camera to the account, hoping to provoke any sort of reaction. The account did respond, but it was simply numbers again. This time, all it said was 35. Are these numbers leading to something? It just doesn't make sense to me. My friend tried messaging Burgess again, but just like what happened to me, he no longer got a response. A few hours after my friend had left, I noticed I had a message from Burgess. This time, it was a video message. Before opening it, I decided to turn on the screen recording option. I wasn't going to let what happened last time happen again. I braced myself once again, and not knowing what I was about to see. Once again, it was me. I was dead again. This time, I had a full view of my body. My gut was cut open, and there was something crawling around inside me. My eyes were once again milky white, and my body far too pale to be alive. The cameraman circled around my body several times, making absolutely no noise in the process. Eventually, they decided to do a zoom in on my face, which that image still haunts me. Then they began to move the camera down. Whatever had been crawling inside me before had made its way up to my chest now, because I could see it bulging. The camera was about to begin to enter the hole in my gut, but thankfully the video cut off. I did throw up this time. I've seen plenty of gore in my lifetime, but that was me, or whatever it was looked exactly like me. I couldn't handle seeing my lifeless body in that state. How was any of this possible? If there were some sort of special effects, then they were the best I had ever seen, and why would someone waste their time to do this to me? After regaining my composure and losing my lunch, I went to look at the video recording I had taken of the Snapchat, and again, it wasn't the same. The video started with a black screen, and when I hit play, I did see myself alive again. I was just sitting there laughing while staring at the camera. Admittedly, I'm quite a loud laugher, but this was extreme, even for me. The laugh seemed so over-exaggerated, and the smile on my face was just plain creepy. At the end of the video, I just abruptly stopped laughing. My head tilted slightly to the side before the video ended. I had obviously never taken this video, and if I hadn't, then I have more mental issues than I thought. The person in the video looked exactly like me, though. I've heard of deep fakes before. Maybe that's what's going on here? That didn't explain how the video changed on its own, though, or the picture before, not to mention the numbers. I'm writing this because I need your help. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? Is my phone hacked? I think that's the most logical thing to assume, but the rest just doesn't add up. Also, if anyone has any ideas on what the numbers might be referring to, please let me know. If you want to add the Snapchat, the username is Vargeses, spelled Vargesses. I doubt it will do any good, but I'm desperate for any help at this point. March 17th is only 2 weeks away. If that is what the 317 number is referring to, then I don't have much time. I hope that isn't what the number is referring to, but I'm terrified. I'm terrified of what I might see the next time I get a Snapchat from Vargas. Edit. I've received a new message from the account. After opening it, the account seems to have disappeared. I'll talk more about this in my next update. So it looks like the story is going to be updated a few times, and if you're interested in hearing the updates, I'll keep an eye out for it, and you can comment down below and leave a like. But it is time to move on to our next story, which is I Keep Finding Eggs in My Apartment, submitted also 3 months ago by Captain Raffioli. I always joked with my friends about how I would only ever cook eggs if I ever lived alone. Eggs are just so versatile, I would say, and honestly I half meant it. I had little to no cooking skills by the time I moved out of my parents' home, and eggs were so much easier to prepare compared to fried chicken or steak. For the first few days of living alone, I would have scrambled eggs and rice for lunch and take out for dinner. I found myself skipping breakfast a lot because of my sleeping schedule was messed up. I kept waking up at lunchtime anyways. Whatever, I thought, it saves me time and money if I only eat 2 meals a day. That being said, even having 2 meals a day felt like I was wasting my time. I work as a freelance graphic designer and worked from my tiny studio apartment, so any time not spent in front of my laptop felt like too much. Maybe it was just my being too ambitious with my work or being worried about what my client would think that led me to this mindset. Either way, I tried to shorten the time I spent in the kitchen and spent more time working. That's when weird stuff started happening. It was a Wednesday evening just past 6. I hadn't eaten all day and felt a bit peckish. I remember that I had a single leftover buffalo wing from when I hung out with my brother earlier that week. He lived in another city but liked to visit and check up on me. It was a leftover of a leftover, I'll be honest. If I insisted my brother take all of it home, but he insisted on leaving at least 3 wings for me, knowing they were my favorite. I'd already eaten 2 and decided to finish off the last one. I popped it into the microwave and heated it up before I got the rice I cooked the other day from the fridge. It was still in the pot I cooked it in, so I poured in a cup of water and put it in the cooker and pressed the button. Soon the wings were ready, and I put them on my plate and waited for the rice to finish heating up. As soon as I heard the distinct release of the cook button, I unplugged the rice cooker and took the pot to my table. I was about to scoop some rice onto my plate when my spoon hit something hard inside the pot. Perplexed, I looked inside the pot. What could possibly be inside this that would be that hard? It's sort of fresh rice. After letting the rest of the steam come out, I saw it. A single egg sitting on top of the rice. Did I put that there? I thought to myself. I took it out of the pot with some tongs and placed it in a cup of cold water to cool it down. Surely I would remember putting an egg in the rice cooker, right? It does sound like a very me thing to do, as I'm kind of lazy and like to do these life hack kind of things. Did you know you can cook instant noodles in an air pot? Learned that one from a friend. I cracked the egg over a bowl in case it was still raw inside, but no, it was hard-boiled through and through. Makes sense, it was in a pot of boiling water and rice. I debated with myself whether or not I should eat it, but I figured it was a little bit more sustenance than a single spicy chicken wing. I chalked up that experience to forgetfulness, thinking that I probably just forgot I put an egg in the rice cooker. The next day, I had a meeting with my client in a coffee shop a few blocks away. I was running late that day and overslept again, so I ended up skipping lunch altogether, substituting it with an iced coffee. The meeting went well, but the client had a long list of revisions for me to work on. The life of freelance work. I got home around sunset and was eager to get to work. I wanted to tackle the revisions early so I could enjoy the coming weekend and go home to my parents' place and not worry about work. But before I plopped myself down in front of my laptop, I decided to cook rice ahead of time so that it would be ready by the time I was ready to eat. I washed the rice and left it to cook while I went through the list of revisions one by one. After a particularly frustrating bout with Photoshop, it for some reason would not save the file. I heard the rice cooker's button go up, indicating that the rice was done cooking. Only then did I realize that I forgot to make actual food to go with it. I was supposed to cook some salmon fillet that night as a treat for leaving the apartment for once, but I was so caught up in my work that I forgot to do all the prep work. Cursing under my breath, I looked through the fridge for any potential leftovers or quick meals to eat. Aside from a bottle of wine and some cheese, I found nothing ready to eat in the fridge. I looked in the pantry, perhaps for a can of sardines or something, when I saw something in the rice cooker again. The lid of the pot was made of clear glass, and even though it was fogged up from the steam of cooked rice, I could see the egg shape pressed up against the glass. I took the pot out of the cooker and lifted the lid. Yep, another egg. How? I said to myself out loud. I took the egg out as I did the other night. I swear I didn't do this. I retraced my steps. Meeting, rice, work, shouting at the computer because of work. At no point did I put an egg in my rice cooker. I cracked the egg open, and it was a perfectly hard-boiled egg. Despite my better judgment, I ate it anyway. In my defense, I didn't have anything else to eat as ulam. That night, I counted my eggs in the fridge. 4 eggs. I noted that I had bought half a dozen eggs at the market earlier that week when I went grocery shopping. So these are the eggs that I bought. That's good. At least they're not mystery eggs being laid by some alien. As I showered that night, I rationalized to myself that I must have put the egg there myself and forgotten. I was worried about early onset dementia, as our family had a history of that, but at least that explanation quelled my fears for a while. The next day, I worked tirelessly on my client's project. The problems I had with saving were gone, only to be replaced by InDesign crashing on me every hour or so. Needless to say, I was incredibly frustrated. After a while, I gave up, saving whatever feeble amount of progress I made that day and closing my laptop. Take a break, I told myself. I looked out my window and realized I had lost track of time, and it was now late at night. I was resigned to skipping dinner, but a part of me wanted at least an iced coffee so I could give myself a boost of energy and continue working. I put some water into my electric kettle and left it to boil while I showered. After showering, I got all my coffee-making tools out and was ready to pour the boiling water in when I heard a weird clunking sound from inside my kettle. I opened the lid of the kettle, and lo and behold, there was a single egg floating in the water. What the fuck? I took it out and didn't even wait for the egg to cool. I just cracked it on the counter. Of course it was hard-boiled, but how did it get there? Boiling eggs in the rice cooker kind of makes sense because it was a quick way of making rice and oolong. But who puts it in the kettle when they're making their coffee? I knew for a fact that it wasn't me this time, and I hadn't left my workspace at all that day except for bathroom breaks. I checked the fridge. 3 eggs. I put the cooked egg in the fridge and decided not to make coffee that night. I went to bed at 3 in the morning after finally resolving my problems with my laptop, falling asleep quickly. I woke up the next morning with a grumbling stomach before I realized I didn't eat at all the previous day. I wanted an iced coffee but was afraid of finding yet another egg in my appliance, but the rumbling in my stomach was persuasive. I put the kettle on and decided to sit in front of it and watch it carefully. Maybe if I kept my eyes on it, nothing would happen. The water stopped boiling, and immediately I opened the top of the kettle. My face was met with hot steam, but after it had cleared, I peered inside. No egg. I breathed a sigh of relief and made my coffee, but when I turned around to go to the dining table, my heart sank. There was an egg laying on a piece of tissue on the table. After nearly dropping my coffee, I placed it down on the kitchen counter with shaking hands. I slowly approached the egg and poked at it with my finger. It was cold to the touch, almost like it had been taken from. I whipped open the refrigerator and counted the eggs. 3 eggs. The egg from last night was not inside. A voice from behind me spoke, sending chills down my spine. "Please," it said with a raspy, strained voice. Just eat something."